There is one thing in this movie, one thing that is integral that they missed. The rest of it, I really enjoyed as a fan, but there's this one thing still unresolved. We're gonna talk about that in a bit. Hello friends, I have just watched FNAF for a second time, and now it is time for me to get into all of the spoilers. So get ready, because we're about to talk spoilers. Yes, I dressed up again, but no, I did not give myself a bunny nose, because I didn't feel like it. So here we go. Let's talk about this film. So fair warning. Spoilers in effect. Don't get jump scared by spoilers. Know that they're coming. I don't want to surprise you. Well, overall, if you've watched my reaction video, you will know that I enjoyed this movie. There are some things that I feel like could be tweaked and could be better, especially if we're considering a general audience, although overall, I quite enjoyed it, but I gotta say, now it's just come out, so anything can happen, friends. Anything can happen. But right now, I was looking at it on my way back home after the movie, and it looks like it to be stinky on Rotten Tomatoes right now. But I don't know how many reviews. There's 69 reviews. 69 reviews. And it's, oh, it went up a percentage. It's at 26% now. So it's not looking great in terms of critics' reviews. But I do feel like this is a movie that will be very split between critics and audience anyways. I figured it was going to be more of like, the audience really likes it. Although I gotta say, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that they nailed in this. Specifically, the overall look of the movie. So, near the beginning, when we're kind of just taken in, being taken into this sort of period piece, the 90s and 80s, I feel like they did that really well with a lot of the costume designs that we have in this and the wardrobe choices. Like, wardrobe be crushing it. Also, I want to own a lot of this wardrobe. It looks so cool. The other thing is when we finally do get to Freddy's, the design of Freddy's is so cool. It is such a one-for-one in a lot of areas from the games, and I think that they just really did it justice in bringing it to life. There are things that they included in this that are also super cool. Obviously, there's tons of Easter eggs, which I'm not going to get into all of them because also I've only seen it twice, so I'd have to probably go back with a comb to really even be able to get all of them. But Circus Baby being in it obviously was something that I was very excited about as someone who is a big Circus Baby fan, and the fact that we had an acknowledgement of that animatronic. The pins in the first scene, and also when Mike is trapped and is about to get, you know, the Freddy face put on him, the pins, the fact that you have to loosen them to get out sort of that situation where you're about to be put in that suit. It was so cool. I love that reference. There's tons of references to the games in this that are really good. And speaking of the suits, by the way, the suits look amazing. Like, wow. And the fact that I believe a lot of it is actually like made. They really made the suits. That's so cool to me. I also really love that Balloon Boy was included. We also got some, you know, some crawling through the vents, always fun. Balloon Boy actually being in this was not something I was expecting. And I love that Balloon Boy got, you know, a bunch of jump scares. I think that's very kind as well, since I feel like Balloon Boy, when it comes to jump scares, he gets left out a bit, you know? He's not big usually on the jump scares, so I'm glad we gave him some in the movie. Also, Sparky being referred to as Sparky's Diner, and also being, you know, in the actual Freddy's was also very cool, seeing that reference. And I think, you know, the Spring Bonnie, Spring Trap suit that we got in this looked amazing. Amazing. And just the way that the movement is. I don't know if Matthew Lillard was actually the person that was in the suit, or if there was maybe someone else that was doing the physicality at all, or if that was all Matthew Lillard. But if it was like perfect. So whoever did that, whether it was Lillard himself or someone else coming in, wow. It looked amazing. I really liked that. This is definitely a movie that I think is made for fans first, and then they're also trying to think about what does a general audience want to see that may have not seen FNAF and not know what they're getting into. And as I said in my reaction, in my spoiler-free review, I feel this is a movie that could be good for everyone to go see. However, we must acknowledge that clearly I am a FNAF fan. So it's a little hard for me to put myself fully in those shoes, being so immersed as I am in the fandom of FNAF and having followed it for quite some time. And Uptown Duck came to stay with me. I may be a little wrong there based on Uptown Duck's perceptions. Uptown Duck is very much aware of FNAF, but is not, I would say, like, deep into the fandom or anything like that. And there were things that he picked up on that he just felt, if you are not a fan, there are quite a few moments that really aren't for you in the movie. So I may be wrong. I may need to reassess. However, I still feel like it's a very fun movie. I think even though you might not get every single joke or reference that's in this movie, the thing that I did feel is that there's a lot of really funny moments and some pretty cool moments as well that they put in there that I think will resonate with everyone. There's a lot of like just deadpan humor, like just straight up dry people acknowledging how ridiculous the situations are. One of my favorite moments is actually when Abby, after she goes with Mike to Freddy's one night, he asks her about, you know, the animatronics and her perception of them. And, you know, is like, you know, think they're like possessed by these like children's ghosts. And she's like, well, yeah, I mean, like, otherwise, how do they move? Like, I just love how she just so blatantly accepts it. But it's also, to me, that moment was not just funny, but it was also really funny because it felt grounded. And I think that's a lot of the, well, maybe not all of the deadpan moments, but there are a few that I feel like are very grounded in a weird, twisted reality. Whereas a kid, I feel like you would accept something like that, even though objectively it is so ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. The parts of it that are not as strong, though, I have to say, although I feel like the plot overall is pretty good, and I'm glad that we waited because I think it was key to get this plot right, and I think they did that. The script, I was reading it this time. Obviously not on a page. I didn't have the script in front of me while I was watching this movie or anything like that. But when people were saying lines, sometimes I do a thing where I kind of remove myself from the scene that's happening. And as they're saying the lines, I imagine what that looks like on a page. I imagine what the script would look like if someone handed it to me and I was auditioning for a role. And some of that dialogue is really hard to sell. There's a part that really stuck out for me that I felt was really weird, where Mike says that when his brother went missing, he remembers he was about 12. About 12. About? I feel like you'd remember if you were 12 or not when you lost a sibling. Because that's going to be traumatic for you. And I think to say about downplays the gravity of what that moment would be like for someone if they lived through it. It's a weird way to phrase that line. It's not how I would phrase that if I were writing it. However, I have some theories about this movie, and one of the theories that I have could actually explain why that line was written that way, and that is I'm still not fully convinced that Mike and Abby's parents are real. However, Abby does seem to remember them, and they have photos of them, and obviously they have Aunt Jane, so how do we explain? Obviously she's related to them, so there's a lot of things that really ruined this theory. It was a theory I had early on when I was watching it and quickly crumbled around me. But if it's true, then about 12 would make sense if it's some form of like brainwashing and like maybe the parents aren't real in the same way. I was just really expecting Mike to be revealed as Mike Afton, and I like that we went a different direction with that, don't get me wrong, but I had a lot of theories as I was sitting watching the movie, which was really fun to see which directions they went in, and some of them I'm still kind of open to seeing if maybe somehow they could be true or not, and that's one of them. So yeah, I'm also wondering if Vanessa is Elizabeth, or if Vanessa is just Vanessa and there is no Elizabeth in this reality, and like that's basically like been an amalgamated character. I'm wondering even if she really is William's kid or not. We still don't know Mrs. Afton. I mean, there's a lot of questions that are unanswered, and I think because of that, it allows us to open up theories. However, that could also be a negative point, because at the end of the movie, there's some loose threads that we don't tie up, and there's questions that I have throughout the development of the plot that don't really make sense. The whole timing of Abby having this connection with the animatronics, but that all happening in one night, and then her somehow drawing like basically like 3 different pictures, I think, with them in one evening. Well, I guess Mike was asleep, and then I guess she gets tickled and he wakes up. Is the implication here? She seems to have developed like a whole, I would say, what would normally take a few weeks of a relationship with them. So it's a little fast. The pacing at parts is janky, and the fact that we don't know at the end what happened to Aunt Jane, or if there's any fallout for Mike, or at the end how Mike can just like pay for things without needing to seemingly worry. I mean, Vanessa's in the hospital. Who's paying that bill? Are they paying that bill? Maybe that's covered because Vanessa's a cop. What happened to Aunt Jane? How do we explain that? Did her body just mysteriously disappear? Did she really fall asleep? Was she really being silly? See what I'm talking about? There's a lot of stuff that's unanswered. I could just explain it away because it's FNAF, but I think general audiences might have a harder time with that. A strength for me, however, I felt was both Michael and Abby. I feel like Josh Hutcherson as Mike Schmidt was really good. I feel like his sister Abby was also amazing. Piper Rubio plays Abby, and I felt like she was actually one of the strongest actors in the entire movie. The fact that Abby also got quite a bit of a character to play with, she felt like a real kid. She felt like a real person, even though she's definitely weird. But I loved that she was weird. So I just feel like, yeah, that was one of my favorite characterizations. And also their relationship with each other felt very real. They really felt like a real brother and sister. It was super cute. And I loved it. I thought that was such a strength. And the idea that they kind of have to come to this realization that, both of them, that they really do care about each other. And that basically everything they're doing is for each other, even though sometimes they're not able to open up about how they really feel about each other to one another, because they have a lot of trauma that they don't really talk about. I feel like they don't really talk, and that's the issue, but they still understand how important their connection is something that was really good. And by the end of the film, I'm glad that we realized that. I'm glad that they were able to connect and come together and just like be this strong brother-sister unit. However, by the end of the film, we also got, of course, the reveal that what was his name? Steve Raglan is actually William Afton. Dun dun dun. And while I was so excited when Matthew Lillard was announced for this role, I felt like Matthew Lillard was going to do such a good job, and I think he did with what he was given. However, he wasn't given very much. And once again, the biggest thing for me that this movie missed, and that this whole franchise has missed, why does William Afton do what he does? Why is he a bad guy? In this, it's just like, well, he's a bad guy. Okay, I'm tired of that. Please explain to me why he does this. What's his motivation? We don't know. We still don't know. And he really doesn't have enough of a characterization. We know he has a daughter. We don't really know how he feels about his daughter. We know that he's a genius. And we know that he obviously is like a murderer. That's it. When are we gonna figure out why he does what he does? Will we ever figure it out? FNAF 2? Or never? Please help. And there's a lot of things they could have given us. There's a lot of hints. I feel like Vanessa also could have been established more as maybe being kind of crazy. It's alluded to, but I wanted to have a moment where we see her switch. And although the part where she threatens to shoot Mike if he brings Abby back there kind of is that, it wasn't a hard enough switch. It's leaning in that direction, but I really wanted this sense that there's another persona that's within her that maybe is something that comes from her dad. So overall, that was disappointing to me. The fact that William Afton and Vanessa really never got established in that way. Yeah, I'm hoping we're gonna see more of it later, but I will say there's so many iconic moments in this. If you're a FNAF fan, you're really gonna love it. And if you're a general audience member, you might like it. I think you'll like the design of it at least. It looks gorgeous on the screen. I will say that. Well, friends, that's basically all I have to say about this. I hope that if you watch it, you enjoy it. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of the movie. What were the strengths? What were the weaknesses? And I will see you next time, friends. Stay nerdy and don't get jump scared.